Hi guys, welcome to the next video on the SQL series. So in this video, I would like to share about the order of query processing, which means how the query is processed while it executes at the backend. And this is very important to understand who somebody wants to learn SQL because sometimes we believe, as always, we start with the select, then the column name, and then the table name, and we always thought that's how the query execute. It will first select the columns, then goes to which tables, and then give us the result. That is not the case. So execution of the query happens in very different manner in the backend, which means the query always start from the from. It never start from the select. That's what we believe. So from, we in the from clause we assign the table name, right? Like from customer, from order, from employee, right? That's how we assign the table. After the from clause, we usually join the table from with different table, right? Because this is a relational database, right? Tables are linked with from one table to another, and we usually use the join condition to join two tables to get the output from them. So what happens in the join? It will There are three process happens when we do the join. First, it will do the Cartesian product of first table and the next table. Then the on predicates happen. On we usually assign the condition which matches from the first table to the second table. And the last comes the optional parameter like outer. Even after matching, let's say we want to get additional field from the right table, then we use the outer. So there are multiple types of join: left join, and join, right join, right outer join, on full join, and cross join. After the joins happens, then the where condition, we put the where condition to filter out the results which we get from these rows, right? And then the group by happens. So in group by we group the sets from the rows, and the next execution happen of the having. So if you want to further filter out your condition, your rows, you can use the having clause. After having, only the select statement get executed, where we can put other parameters like distinct or top, or so those are the additional parameter you want. If you want to remove the duplicate, you can use the distinct. If you only want to get certain, let's say only 5% off or 5 record from the rows, then you can use the top 5. And after that, you want to order your results. So after order, we use the order by clause by providing the column where we can get the result in ascending, which is by default, or we can provide the keyword DESE, which will give you the descending order of your result. Then comes the offset and rows fetch next. So which is very much similar to the top, where but the only difference here is in the offset we skip few of the rows, and in the fetch we get the rows. Like if there are 10 rows and we want to skip the first two and fetch the next 8, so we can use offset 2 rows, fetch next 8 rows. To explain this more clearly, I have a flow diagram which I will show into full screen. So in this flow diagram, the how the query process happens. So we start with the from condition. Then we first check the whether any table operator exists. So table operators are join, apply, pivot, or pivot on pivot. And if they exist, and let's take example of join. So again, as I told, three process happens: the Cartesian product first. It will multiply the rows from first table to the second table. Then it will match the table which are put in the on predicate. And the last one is the add the outer rows. If you want to add additional rows, you can use the outer, like outer right join or left join. Everything in the SQL give you the every result or the output is the virtual table. So from and after doing the join, we'll get one virtual table which gets passed into the where condition. So where condition will filter the rows. So if where condition exists, then we filter the rows. If it does not, then it goes to the group by. So here in the group by, we do the grouping of the rows. Let's say we want to group the customers with who are in the same city, then we can use that. And if we want to filter out additionally after the group by, so we can use the having clause. So having clause only works on the grouped set of data. And after having, it goes to the select, and here we evaluate the expression. Like we want to use the distinct. If distinct is the keyword, when we use it will remove the duplicate rows, right? If distinct exists, it will remove the duplicate row. If no's, then the order by happens. So order by, as I told, everything from at this point will, every step will give you the virtual table, but not by the order by. So order by will give you the cursor, and there is a condition. You cannot uh, create next step only based on the order by. You have to include the top and exit. I will explain you with one example later. So after the order by, we'll get a result representation based on the column which are present in the order by. So if a order by exists, and the next is the top or offset. So if top and offset do the same thing but in different manner. So if you want to get only the first few rows, then we can top or we can use the offset, and that will filter and create one set, and that will be the final result of the query. So I'm creating two tables, customer and the order table. So let's execute. If they are already exit, it will, this code will delete those. And let's create both the tables. Let's insert the, I'm inserting 4 records into the customer table. 4 records are done, and including 7 records into the order table. So let's see all the data from both the table. Using the star is not a best practice, but because we are having very less records, I'm using the select star, but it's a very bad practice uh, to include the str in our query. So let's first next take the one example. There is a question, there is a condition. We want to extract only the Madrid customers who has ordered drinks which are 3 or less than 3. Okay. So if I execute, let's write this query based on what we have discussed. And so we want the output from the customer table, right? And I'm joining with the order table on customer IDs, both these IDs, and where cities is Madrid, and we are grouping based on the customer ID. So let's execute only this part first. So I'm getting the Fernando and the Carlos who has ordered 2 and 3 respectively. But this is wrong, right? Because as you can see, if I execute both this table again, there is one more Muff is there, right? Muff who has only ordered one order, but it's not is coming here. So something is wrong here. So to view that, let's go into the more detail based on what we have understood till now, how the actual execution happens. So in this query, what I'm doing here, I'm getting first. Let's go to the from. I'm getting data from customer table, cross joining from the order table. So cross joining is nothing but it will let's say the first table has m rows and second has n, so it will multiply. So in our case, we have 4 and we have 7, so it should give 28. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm including the case. So let me cut it here for now. and let's execute only this part. Okay, and let's execute only this part. So as you can see, I'm doing the cross join and I'm getting 28 records here, right? Which is the expected. Now what I'm doing here in the case statement is, if both the customer ID from customer table and customer ID from order table are matching, then give me the true. Else, if one of the value is null in both the table, then give me the unknown, or else give me the false. So this is the logical where the on predicates works. So let me execute this, and as you can see, let me make it. As you can see, if the customer IDs are not matching, this logical value is false, and if it is matching, then its value is true. And if one of the value is null, so null is very special value in SQL. It does not means false. It does not means a zero. It means there is no value. Its value is missing. And if we compare something with null, it it's always be unknown. So that we call is three value logic, which means that it can be true, it can be false, or it can be null, which is unknown. And unknown or the null value has very different functionality in SQL. Like in the there are there are different type of constraint, but important ones like the primary key and the unique. And the only difference between the primary and the unique is null plus all the values. So it considered null as the one of the value. So you have to be very careful while using or while dealing with the null value in SQL, right? So coming back to our problem, where we know which value is matching, right? And let's do the outer join with the on the same. So here we are matching with the we are again using the customer table. On predicate is customer ID from both the tables, and left after join means give me all the data from customer and the matching win from the order table, right? Let's execute this part first. So it gave 7 rows. So it gave all the records from the customer table and the matching one from the order table. And there are two nulls values here, right? Which should be considered because we want to extract all the tables, all the values from the both the tables, right? Now let's go to the next condition. It's a where. So we want to put only the users, only the customers who are from the city Madrid, correct? So we have 7 records here, and let's do the group by based on the customer ID and the city. And let's execute first this part. So as you can see, if in Madrid we have Visa who has not ordered, but he's a customer, right? And Fernando has 2 orders, and Carlos has 3 orders. So our actual question says, give me the count who has ordered less than 3 orders, correct? So after the where condition, we created this group, and now again we want to filter in this group. We use having clause. So here I'm saying having count of the order which is less than 3. So this should get eliminated and we should return back only these 2 rows. So let execute. So I'm getting these 2 records. So this is the final outcome and the final result what is requested in the question. Now I want to discuss few of the very special cases in query processing, and that will explain more in detail how the query got executed. So let's see what we have in the order table. So we have 7 orders. These are the customer IDs, and the row number is one of the Windows function. What it will do, it will assign the numbers like numbers based on the rows it returns. So the question here is, I want to assign the numbers after removing the to the distinct customer ID in the order table. And let's see if that works. So here, what I told earlier, the query starts from the from. So we are getting all the record from the from. There is no join, then goes to the where condition. It removes one null value that remains 6. Then it goes to the select and it should remove the distinct customer IDs. Mean we should get threes, but why we are getting 6 here? So why we are getting 6? Because before removing the duplicate value in the customer IDs, the row numbers are getting assigned. So which means this this particular column expression is executed before the distinct. And why is that? Because as I showed in the flow chart, the expressions happens first in the select statements, right? And if you want to do that, if you want to assign the uh, row number after removing the duplicate, we can use uh, something called CET, common table expression, which is the syntax is here. So we execute this first, and then we get the row number. So in this we are creating a common table expression, select distinct. Uh, so from order table we are removing the null and we are removing the duplicates, right? So let's execute this. Okay, oh, sorry, let's execute this. And now we are getting the correct result. So this result, this common expression is removing the duplicates, and after that we are assigning the numbers. So that's how the order by works. Now, as I told earlier, everything which happens before the order by is like where joins, right? Having all returns the one virtual table, which is like the input to the next execution. So if I go up, so if we start with the from, so after assigning the table and doing the join, it will give you the one virtual table which will feed into the where, and after where execution happens, it will give one virtual table to group by, to the select, and then to the order by, group by having, and then select, then to the order by. But order by does not create the virtual table. It creates this cursor, and which has very interesting uh, uh, which has very interesting functionalities by using the order by. So one of these is you cannot use the query which has only order by in the subquery. So what is happening in this piece of code? We are creating a subquery, select from order table, right? Then selecting these two and then ordering customer ID and the order ID. And then we are feeding this into this. So ideally it should work, right? It looks fine. But if we execute this, we are getting an error. The order by clause is invalid in the view line function derived tables, subqueries, and common table expression unless of top offset or for example is specified. So similarly, we cannot create views which has the or last clause as the order by. So this is one of the uh, query which execute fine, but if you try to create view based on this, it will give you the same error. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about the alias, which is very important. As you can see, we are using alias almost everywhere. So for the customer table, I'm creating C as the alias, and that means we can refer customer table as C, and I'm using customer ID from the this table, right? But there is a common mistake we usually do is using the alias before it is used. So I cannot say where after in this statement something like this where city customer dot city equals to Madrid and the count of the and the num order some value, something like this, num order greater than 2. that is wrong because as I told, execution happen from to join to where to group by to having and then to the select. So this is at this point this does not exist. And if I try to do that, I can prove it. It will give you the error invalid column name num order because num order does not exist at this point. Let me delete it. But because the order by happens after the select statement, we can use the num order as we can use the alias values, and this is perfectly fine and it will execute perfectly. Where we are getting the count of which has the who has the count of order less than 3, and we are getting two customers and which are ordered in this manner. And I can use DSC to get into the in the degree into the from maximum value to the zero value. Next, I want to talk about the top and the offset filter, which is, as I told, we can use this filter to get, uh, let's say I only want to have only 3 records from the order ID in the descending order. So I'm getting 3 records, 7, 6, 9, because I'm doing the order by in descending, and 7, 6, 5 are the first three. So I'm getting a 3 record. Same thing happens with the offset. So in this offset number of rows means it will skip the 4 rows and then execute, then fetch the 2 rows. So we should get 2 records from the order ID. Now you have to be very careful while using the order by as your predefined values if you're fetching based on the order by. And what I mean by that, it does not guarantee in the outermost query whatever value we are getting from this record. So let's say we are ordering here in the let's execute this part. So it is giving 1 2 3, right, top 3, and we are executing here, right. It seems we are getting the correct result, but that is not the case. And I can prove that if I order this into descending. So let's see what we have. 765, 765. And I can prove that. Let's create a sorted view on this, right. So I'm creating the view based on this. So which is we are using the order by in the descending order, and I'm creating that, right. Let's do that. That's working perfectly fine. And now let me execute that. You see the difference? So let me execute both. So in this, I'm executing, I'm getting the, I'm saying create a view using this query, which is in the descending order 7 to 1, right? And it has created the view, but when I'm ordering that view, I should get the same result, right? But I'm getting the different result. So that's what I mean by ordering if is not guaranteed if the outermost query does not have its own order by clause. So we cannot depend on the internal order clause of the query, right? Similarly with the offset. So if let's execute this part, I'm creating the based on this query, right? Which is in descending order. Let's execute, and now let's select that. So now here I'm getting again. I would like to highlight this does not mean it will always work. The internal mechanism and the SQL official definition is also says don't depend upon the internal order by cross, right. It can be misleading if you are doing some analysis based on the value you are getting from the internal table. Finally, the next thing which I just want to touch base on the table operator. So join we have already discussed. There are other three type of table operator which are like IPE, which are 1, 2, 3, go. which are like apply, what will happen? Activates the left input table and with the right input tables. And the pivot, in the pivot, what happens? It rotate the rows data into the columns and on doing and while performing the aggregations. So I will show you some example in maybe in another video. I will have a dedicated video to explain this. And unpivot is the reverse of the pivot. It will rotate the columns data into the row data. And we have this others Windows function, the union, expect, and the interaction. These are nothing but uh, union is of two type. So uh, this comes between we can use this operator between one query and two queries, and it will fetch the results. Like let's say we want to compare the two tables, right? We can use these three operators. So union is of two type. It has a union all and only union, and the difference in the union all, we get all the results. So let's say the first table has 6 rows and seven table has 5 rows, we'll get 11. And the union, it will compare the result set from one table to another and only return the distinct value. Similarly, expect, what happens, it compare the table 1 and 2 and only return the difference which is in table 1 and which are not in table 2. Intersect is the intersect operator. It will return the distinct rows from both the tables. And this is the step. So we have a query 1 and we put the this operators in between the queries, and then the last we can do the order by. So that's it, guys. Just to brief what we have discussed, we have discussed the order of the query processing and the SQL query execute in this manner. The number which are mentioned here. The first, again, it will start with the from, then do the joins, then the where condition happens, which is followed by the group by, where the grouping of the rows happens. And after grouping, we can filter the groups based on the having condition, and then it goes for the select, where the other operator and the expression get evaluated, and then we can order. Then we do the order using the order by. And if you want to further get the few values like top, or use the offset to get the very specific number of the rows from the table. Yep, that's it, guys. That's it from this video. Thank you, guys.